Good morning, and welcome to the Building Control Joint Committee held today in Brinsworthy. Welcome to councillors, officers and members of the public to the meeting of the Building Control Committee. Please switch your mobile phones to silent. There may be members of the public or press attending this meeting virtually. Can I please ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone to avoid any disruption during the meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. Just as a reminder for councillors to ensure that those attending virtually can hear the proceedings and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember this is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to each other by first names. Can I just say welcome to councillors Tucker and Yabsley representing North Devon District Council. I'm Councillor Bob Deed in the chair from Mid Devon District Council, and Councillor Chesterton will join us by Teams. Do we have any apologies for absence? None received. Item number 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of July 2022, which you will find commencing on page 3 of your pack. Are there any substantive comments on the minutes?
I'll move them.
You move?
Yep.
Right, those in favour we accept.
I abstain because I wasn't here.
That's unanimous from those who can vote. Thank you. Items brought forward which in the opinion of the chair should be considered as a matter of urgency. I have none, but I would just make a comment that on the minutes there was an item for us to consider the future structure of the joint venture, which we will take as a separate issue after this meeting. Any declarations of interest?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. Five, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B, confidential restricted information. As far as I'm aware, we do not need to go into Part B this morning. So in Part A, item 6 at page 9 on your agenda, 2021-22 Building Control Partnership Trading Account Quarter 2, report by North Devon Council Accountancy Services Manager. I have comments, please.
Chairman, can I briefly speak to this paper?
Of course.
I'm aware that we have our service accountants. If there's any detailed questions. So
Sorry, apologies for the tape. Could you please just introduce yourself?
of course, my apologies. Jeremy Mann, Head of Service for Planning, Housing and Calpac North Devon District Council. Thank you. The table that you have before you is the standard format for the presentation of building control for the building control trading account. As you've indicated, this is up to the end of August Q2. The information contained in the spreadsheet evidences the challenging trading environment for the service. We see a situation where the service has had to incur significant additional costs associated with the procurement of agency staff to address workforce deficit. And we see also a decreasing trend in fee income. So we have two factors that have aggravated the outturn, projected outturn to a significant degree, as I detailed in this document. What I can say, and it was very fortuitous, I think, and very positive action taken by your committee to move the operating surplus from last year into a reserve, because this has afforded us an opportunity this year to cushion to some degree those sort of adverse movement in costs. Moving forward, we won't have that opportunity, and there is action I'm sure that we will speak about during the course of this meeting that we'll take to address the situation. So it is a markedly different situation we find ourselves in now to the one that we see historically, where we have a situation where the service will result in increased net costs for both organisations at the end of this financial year.
Any comments? Anybody want to make any comment on the figures?
Not particularly, councillor D, no.
You're content?
I think we understand the explanation and
Yep.
we know where we are,
Yes.
try and manage that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Moving on then to items.
Move to note that four.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, yeah, all those in favour? Noted, unanimous. Item 7, building control business update, page 11 in your pack. Report from the principal building surveyor.
Chair. I'm Andrew Howard, Principal Building Control Surveyor for North Devon, and currently acting as an interim service. Just to report on the KPIs and the market share. While we have managed to meet our statutory obligations, clearly the challenges to our service and drastically reducing our response times, which is clearly having an impact on our ability to provide the high quality service that we have done in the past. So we've seen our first response time slip from 7 days at the end of the last financial year, and that's currently sitting at around 13 days on average for every application that we receive. And then applications are currently being dealt with on the 3-week target. Again, at the end of the last financial year, 96% of the applications that we received were being dealt with within 3 weeks. This is currently sitting at around 41%. So again, seeing quite a drastic drop off in our ability to respond. The number of applications that we received the first quarter was very strong, and I think we've probably covered this previously, but that's largely down to the changes to the building regulations that came in June, which saw a spike in applications. And so for that first quarter, we received 424 applications. And in the second quarter of the financial year, that dropped off significantly to 252. When I look at the overall number of applications for the first 2 quarters, it is roughly where we would have expected it to have been at that time. And our market share, despite our challenges, has remained between 75% and 76% over the 2 quarters of this financial year. And the housing market share has remained strong at 2%, be it both in the diminishing market, particularly over that second quarter. So moving on to workload, clearly we had a challenging first quarter. Our staffing issues perhaps weren't quite as challenging in that first quarter as they are currently, but obviously the volume of work is significantly higher. I think it's fair to say in the second quarter, while the volume of new work is definitely diminishing, the demand for service in terms of site inspection is still high. That's off the back of the wave of the work that came in the first quarter. Our experience is that the work that was submitted is actually being maintained. It doesn't appear to be something that we're actually starting with the financial addition to the accountants. Moving on to sort of staffing the vacant posts. Good news is that we have just appointed a new technical support team leader, an internal promotion, and she will start on the 14th of the month. Clearly, that will leave a vacant post that will need backfilled in due course. So on the vacant posts, we do currently have 8 vacant posts. It does include the manager's post. So that's 6 surveying posts and obviously technical support posts that the team leaders promotion leaves us. So the vacant manager's post has been re-advertised in August, and I'll perhaps leave that to Jeremy and to Richard to update us to proposals are for that being advertised once again. And my understanding is that the remaining surveying posts and the technical support will be advertised shortly, and suspect will fairly significant market supplement. So, currently do have 4 agency surveyors that are covering some of those open posts. Obviously, Jeremy's already, sorry, Mr. Lang's already touched on. That obviously is creating a significant issue in terms of our costs and service. We have approval and funding to service those agency posts until January. Myself and accountants have been going through charging review to see how we can actually help fund those market supplements. The last area that I'd just like to update you on with regards to the building safety regulator. So the remaining employed staff, surveying wise, there are 3 of us, and we are with the North team. Myself and a colleague have just completed the first cohort. I completed the fire safety level 6, and my colleague has completed the legislative compliance cohort. And we just both received notifications. The level 5 surveyor that we have has just completed his course and we're waiting his results. Had our trainee accepted on a levy funded degree course for building control surveying level 5 stroke level 6, which will start in January. And the exams for myself and my colleague for the level 6 validation process need to be sat next financial year. So we'll actually get a license and validation for that process and actually pass. Final thing I just wanted to touch on was with regards to buildings safety regulator. Partnership has been approached this week by central government to invite us to provide an hourly rate safety regulators, so that when new regulations come into place, HSE are the appointed appointee for the building control body oversee in-scope works. In fact, assuming we have level 6 surveyors available, and then be approached by building safety review like that function for that.
Thank you very much for that. I think there's 2 issues just to follow up on. Could we please have a report on where we're at on yourself? And then I'll go to Mrs. Barrett in terms of any financial comments she wishes to make.
Thank you.
The marketplace is exceptionally challenging for us to be able to recruit qualified surveyors. We recognise a number of issues that are affecting the market. Some of those are within our control, some of those are not. So the age of the workforce, the national workforce, is is making things difficult. Many people are taking the opportunity to retire. The increased competition from improved inspectors is seeing a movement of people from local authority sector to the private sector. But we recognise locally that our salaries, the level of our salaries, is a contributory factor in our inability to recruit. Richard and I, Ms. Martin, myself, have had extensive conversations with finance colleagues and HR colleagues as regards the appropriateness now of us applying market supplements to try and incentivise people to move to the service. This is challenging in the context of other areas of service where we similarly have workforce deficits, and the perception that the use of market supplements in one area could adversely impact on the kind of the morale and the sensitivities of other parts of our respective organisation. We are firmly of the view that the situation in relation to burner control is unique. It is different from many aspects of the rest of the organisation. We are in a competitive environment for 70–80% of the business, and we should act with more of a commercial mindset. Our respective policies allow us to use market supplements and maybe relocation packages. In fact, our policies are very similar in that regard, and that will support us moving forward. The challenge, of course, is that we are putting in proposals that will increase our operating costs at a time when our trend in the generation of fees is decreasing. And so there is a challenge for us both to scrutinise not only our use of market supplements, but it also prompts a more fundamental review of our wider operating costs and our fees. And that is the work that is now ongoing. It's an absolutely priority work stream for us because we at this time we don't have a financially sustainable business.
Thank you very much. Yes, I agree that obviously it's a very challenging situation. But obviously in this particular niche market, we do have competition. And therefore we need to resolve the issue so that we can be still in the market and competitive. I understand fully all of the challenges in getting to that position. Yes, Councillor, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Chairman. Jeremy, just to give a bit of background to where we are, can you say something about the duty we have to provide building control and what's the backstop on that? So explain very succinctly how other areas of the council will suffer if we use resources to ensure that we can move forward. Is there a duty that makes us do that, or do we have a choice? So do we say, I'm just talking around the subject, just say we're not doing it anymore, let the private sector do it? So what's the background that drives that requirement to succeed in terms of recruiting and being able to provide that basic service?
There is thank you. Chairman, there's a statutory base for the provision of building control services. And one of the additional challenges that didn't fully sort of expand upon in his report is the extent of some of the services regulatory responsibilities will increase. So moving forward, the proportion of work that is we will be required to undertake by statute that is not non-fee earning is likely to increase as a percentage of work that we compete for in a marketplace. And that is another challenge for the service moving forward, because historically, the percentage of non-chargeable work has been relatively small. But there's the likely trend moving forward is that that will increase, and that will have a net increase on our costs because we're not able to recover those costs. And this is another factor that needs to be kind of put into the wider review of the operating model. What is heartening, potentially, is the source. There's a new revenue stream associated with the commissioning of our services by the Health and Safety Executive to support their regulatory activity. The challenge, of course, will be that will take away capacity from the day job. So that in itself will, so that there is an unintended consequence of that potentially that will be challenging to us. But there is a revenue stream associated with that. But we are concerned as officers as regards the likely extended regulatory work that is non-chargeable that will have increase on costs.
Thank you. Can I ask, sorry, Tom,
Can I just-
absolutely go.
Thank you for that. And I was sorry, I was just trying to tease out the imperative behind finding the funding to ensure we can staff what we need to staff. And I think we've done that. Thank you, Jeremy. Can we, Kelly, we'll record that now. Within the minutes. This service is set up in a slightly different way from other services of the council, and it has to be funded, basically.
Absolutely, Chairman. This service has a statutory base that is getting bigger, and not to cause any additional anxiety, but we have a national regulator that will scrutinise moving forward our activity. So we will have the trading environment is different. I don't think historically that we've had that level of oversight by a national regulatory body like the Health and Safety Executive.
And Gerald, we need to understand, and I'm sure our officers do, that the pressure on our operating staff and our need for them to qualify and move up in their qualifications and be able to do that, and got to make it worth their while to do it. Because without it, we can't operate.
Absolutely.
I'll shut up now, Jeremy.
Councillor Tucker, if I may just make, my understanding is that the fees and charges for the service technically are cost neutral, that we don't make a profit. But are you saying that all these additional costs, regulatory costs, cannot be reflected in our fees and charges going forward?
There has always been an element of the service, Chairman, that we technically were not able to cost recover. So we're in a situation now where the element of work which is we can't recover our costs is expanding. And that is a challenge then as regards the resources, the people resources that we need to put to that area of work, but also then the consequential cost of delivering the service in that climate with a new national regulator who will be scrutinising the service, looking at the qualifications, the systems, all of that type of thing. That is a new trading environment that's been established by government. It's very positive that I think we would be wishing to work with them. So for us to build a positive relationship with the national regulator seems a very good strategy. But in the briefings that Ms. Marshall and myself have received, it is very clear that there will be very close scrutiny and by the regulatory body. That's the government strategy to ensure the wider quality control of building control services across the UK. Different landscape.
The government expects us to suck up additional charges that they implement. Was ever thus. Councillor Tucker.
Well, which, it's an unbelievable situation we find ourselves in. No doubt about it. My question is partly connected with your council B. And it's not an area this that I've got any experience in, but we're expected to provide a service. Actually, we're in competition with private sectors. Aren't we charging the same sort of rate that private inspectors are charging? They've got to make a profit. The other thing is how we're employing at the moment 4 agency staff. Roughly what extra cost does that place on us? Employing 4 agency staff as against what it would be salaries.
Chairman, if I can address the last question,
Right.
and ask Mr. Howard to give some advice to your committee as regards the hourly rate, so the all-in rate that we pay per hour for an agency surveyor, and maybe then invite one of the accountants then to give us the range of direct salary costs for our surveyors, our in-house surveyors, and then that would provide a useful contrast.
I'm not saying it's going to solve our problem,
No,
but
but
it gives us some idea on.
Chairman, I think it would be really useful information. It would just evidence the challenges of, as regards to management cost, that differential between the 2 models of delivery. So
Yes, and also, if I might just say, it's not just a straight, well, what's the cost of those 4? It's what's the cost of running the service in relation to the establishment numbers, because it's more than 4.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Hammond.
So in terms of the agency surveyors cost per week, would be 4, we're doing 37 hours a week. Like the cost of that to local authorities was just over 2,000 pounds per day.
Per week?
that level of agency staff costs is something that we would be familiar with in other technical areas of the council's business, such as planning. That is,
Chair, if I,
Yes, of course, Mr. Marsh.
thank you. Richard Marsh, Director of Place for Devon. Councillor Tucker, you asked the question in terms of private sector agents, in terms of the work. The important thing to remember is when we look at fees, and we're doing a review of our fees at the moment in time, we are broadly comparable in terms of, we're certainly comparable in terms of our public sector partners, if you like. But when you look at the private sector, we're pretty comparable as well. The important thing to remember there, though, is they don't have the statutory obligations that we do, so they can pick and choose their work. So they chase the more profitable work, but choose not to. They don't have to do any enforcement, so they don't have this 75-25% split that we do in chargeable and non-chargeable. They solely pursue the commercial activity and they favour the more profitable commercial activity. So it's not a level playing field in the sense of
Beyond our control.
it's beyond our control. We will always have the obligation of pursuing that non-chargeable work, because ultimately we are, you know, a public body, and we're expected to do that in terms of making sure that people build properly and undertake enforcement activity, etc. So it's not a level playing field in that regard, fortunately. So they effectively can compete.
Okay, thank you. Yes, councillor, absolutely.
it's so they can cream off really.
Yeah.
More profitable activity, so there's no residual duty for the local authority.
Yes.
To record all their work as well, then to receive their certificates, say, and I know this causes problems. We have 1 or 2, one in particular, site in North Devon, where the authority doesn't know what's going on, in fact, because of that information doesn't come back to us until what it's not right. No, so there's that's a note as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and I think that hopefully that's where the new legislative arrangements will come into play and be more favourable, if you like, because there'll be more teeth in that. But of course, we might, I suppose that, Mr. Howard would be able to advise better than I, but I think until we actually see that new legislative arrangement come in, understand how that entity is going to operate, what the expectations are of partnerships, we won't really know the impact. We're obviously preparing, knowing that this new arrangement is coming in, which will hopefully improve quality assurance and build quality, etc. But as I say, until we see it, we're still slightly in a position of waiting to see.
Sorry,
Just say thank you, what?
just wanted to come back on this figure of, rather frightening, this figure of agency staff. Costing us £8,000 a week.
Yes, can I just say, we're slightly probably comparing apples and pears, because that £8,000 a week is total inclusive costs. Whereas when we're talking about our own staff, and if we look at the levels that we pay as a base, you've got a lot to add on to that. So,
I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
it's still serious.
Just been advised by service accountant that in ballpark terms, agency staff cost the authorities twice the sum of money in the region of
okay,
two
that's
times.
useful.
Two times that would be a ballpark.
Fine, thank you. Mrs. Barrett, would you like to make any comment on the discussion from a financial point of view?
Thank you, Chair. It's Angela Barrett from Mid Devon District Council, accountant there. I just want to say thank you for the financial report that's been submitted today, and to say that Mid Devon have reviewed it, and we don't have any further comment on it at the moment, and everything else that's been shared today I'm happy with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Any further comment, questions on this item?
Chairman,
The headache.
the only comment I've got is that can we, this committee, be briefed regularly? I know we're not meeting that often, but you know, try and keep us brief as to how things are going, and if there is anything that we as members can do to help our colleagues, sit with you, Gary, and yourself, authority to understand what needs to be done. And so there's no, I think we do need to help our council colleagues, lead members, or lead officers to understand where we are.
Thank you. Sure, that would be possible.
Well, I think through the minutes, and I did
Yeah.
insist that our minutes go to our strategy and resources committee, so we get strategy and resources, get to see the minutes. So try and brief them on the problems we have. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Would you like us to note the report? Yes. All those in favour?
Happy to do that.
Unanimous. Moving on to item 8, dates and locations of future meetings. We have down here the date of Thursday, the 16th of February 2023 at 9:30 AM. Do I take it that it will be in this location at this time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chairman, is 9:30 a needed time?
You could make it 9
Yeah,
o'clock.
we'll call.
You can make it 9 o'clock.
Do
because
what
we're
we've got to
quite-
do. I've got a lot of sheep to feed them.
I believe it was changed to 9:30 historically because of a member that was on the joint committee at the time.
Right.
We normally have a meeting at 10 o'clock. That was the,
I mean, from my perspective, that would help.
Well, well, for the sake of your sheep,
Well,
I think we.
We don't want them
10
going
o'clock.
hungry.
Our officers happy with 10 o'clock for the next meeting?
is it okay for
Yes.
officers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll make that at 10, 100 hours for the next meeting.
do you want that going forward? Well, because we'll be.
Yes.
Have I seen this in, I saw some at 10 o'clock. We were meeting at 10, or I'm just stating.
In my experience, members do like to have the same time at each meeting. It's less confusing.
They were historically scheduled at 10. Was because of a previous member had trouble getting, because they had a busy schedule with their work, so we changed the time. But we can revert to 10 o'clock going forward, if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you very much.
I had a struggle, if I'm taking labs in the market on Thursday morning, it's being back, because I've got by 9:30.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance and for those on Teams. And at that point, having completed the business, I'll now declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.